Long before there was a signal, long before there was a chart, long before there was a trade, there was a kingdom, a beautiful kingdom filled with purpose, abundance, prosperity, healing, and destiny. But over time, the kingdom became divided. The people became confused, lost, fearful. They chased every shiny object. They listened to every voice except the one voice that mattered. They forgot who they were. And because they forgot who they were, they forgot what they were building. The warriors lost confidence. The citizens lost direction. The leaders lost vision. And worst of all, the king had become vulnerable. His protection was weak. His resources were being drained. His kingdom was under attack. And there once was a queen, not born into peace, but forged in war. Her entire life had been battle after battle, storm after storm, betrayal after betrayal. She learned early that if she did not become strong, the world would devour her. So she became relentless, savage when she had to be, fearless when she needed to be, unbreakable when everyone else would have fallen apart. She conquered kingdoms, built empires, healed herself, and devoted her life completely to God and to freeing humanity. But beneath the armor was a heart that had been through a meat grinder. She had spent her entire life fighting battles no one saw. Dragons that lived inside the hearts of people she loved. Again and again she stood between danger and her people. Again and again she sacrificed herself so others could survive. Again and again she carried burdens that were never hers to carry. The queen became strong, but strength came at a cost. Because somewhere along the way, she forgot what safety felt like. She forgot what it felt like to rest. She had spent her life protecting everyone else, carrying everyone else, saving everyone else. But nobody had ever truly protected her. Nobody had ever truly made her feel safe. The queen watched all of this from her throne. She watched good people struggle. She watched dreams die. The king was never meant to fight alone. The king needed his queen. Not because he was weak, but because together they were unstoppable. But he had been deceived, pulled away from his destiny. A Jezebel had whispered lies into his ears, promised him things that looked like freedom, but were only chains disguised as gifts. Over time, the king forgot who he was. He forgot his mission. He forgot his calling. And the farther he wandered from his purpose, the more the kingdom suffered, neither realizing that heaven had written a different ending. Because before this lifetime ever began, God had already written their story. The queen and the king made a covenant with God, a soul contract. They would come to earth, find each other, awaken humanity, and lead people into freedom, not just financially, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. The queen's mission was never romance. It was destiny. She never went searching for a king because she needed saving. She went searching because the mission required both of them. So the queen went looking for the king. She saw what he could not yet see: the protector, the builder, the leader, the man God had intended him to become. So she fought for him. She called him home. She reminded him who he was. And slowly, the king began to awaken into the healed king, the awakened king, the restored king. And when the queen finally found her king, everything changed. Because for the first time in her life, she met a man who loved her exactly the way she had always loved others. Not for what she had, not for her success, but simply for her. He was loyal, protective, honorable, present, and for the first time in her life, the queen felt safe, because they were true twin flames. One soul, split into two by God himself. When they reunited, their souls became whole again. For the first time, the warrior queen could breathe. The queen had already healed herself, but his love healed places inside her she thought had died forever. Because true love does not weaken a woman, It gives her permission to finally stop surviving. It gives her permission to rest, to trust, to receive, to breathe. And for the first time, the queen understood what submission truly meant. Submission is safety. The king made a vow before God, "I will be your safety." And the queen made her vow in return, "I will guide, I will encourage, I will believe." Together, the king and queen became the living example of what God intended love to be. No ego, no competition, no power struggle, just honor, respect, protection, trust, devotion. And as the king healed, the queen healed. As the queen healed, the kingdom healed. As the kingdom healed, abundance returned. Because healing always comes before abundance. That is why the queen created the Queen's Great Awakening, to awaken people to their higher selves, to rewire their minds, to free them spiritually, so they could become the version of themselves God always intended. And once the kingdom began healing, the king and queen set forth on their final mission. The queen made a vow. She would create a path so clear that even the most wounded warrior could follow it. Not just as an indicator, but as a roadmap back to the kingdom, back to confidence, back to purpose. That is where the Queen's Path 4.1 was born. Protect the Queen. Every day the Queen stands upon the walls of the kingdom, watching for the exact moment to call the direction. And then suddenly, the signal fires. The king is heading north. The gates swing open. The kingdom erupts. The army forms ranks. Together, they begin running toward abundance. The first thing he activates is protection. Protect the queen. The stop-loss activates, because before abundance comes safety. The king guards her from harm. If the king survives, the kingdom survives. If the king prospers, the kingdom prospers. So the army surrounds him. The queen guides him, and together they move toward destiny. Then the first destination appears. TP1, healed and whole. The kingdom first becomes healed, whole, restored. Then comes the second destination. TP2, safe and protected. Fear disappears. Survival mode disappears. The people finally feel protected. They feel safe enough to grow. Then comes the final destination. TP3, abundance, not just money, freedom. The kind of freedom people dream about. A life where the kingdom no longer suffers. Whether the king is heading north or south, the mission never changes. There is no fear, no panic, because the kingdom trusts the queen. The king pivots. The army adjusts, and then the kingdom army activates. Kingdom army, keep her safe. The trailing stop activates. Their mission, keep her safe while the entire kingdom runs toward abundance. This was never just a system. This was never just charts. This was a love story written by God, a mission, a prophecy, a kingdom awakening. Two souls sent to earth with a single assignment. Wake the people, free the people, lead the people home. And now, the king and queen are calling their people home. The kingdom is healed, the kingdom is protected, the kingdom is abundant, and now, it is your turn. It is your turn to step out of survival, to stop fighting alone. It is your turn to follow the path. Let the queen guide you. Let the king lead. Let the army protect you. It is your turn to step into abundance. It is your turn to step into destiny. The Queen's Path 4.1. Protect the queen. Follow the king. Protect the queen. Win the game.